Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back with Kev for a fans forum / Everton preview. Sorry we're a bit late, but just chatting and then obviously watching the end of the football. And Kev, looks like the results haven't gone too badly for Villa tonight.
Perfect, mate. Absolutely perfect. Chelsea dropping points again. Man City dropping points again from a leading position, as they always do. And as it stands, if we can beat Everton, we'll be only 6 points off second in the league. And you know what I'm thinking, Rich? Liverpool have a bit of a blip. They've dropped points tonight. It's still on. Someone's got to win it. No, I think it just gives you a little bit of hope because there's inconsistency everywhere. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. If you can put a run together in this league, like Newcastle have done, like Forest have done, you can make some big inroads in that table. So, yeah, positive results for us all round, really, in terms of all of our teams around us dropping points, basically.
Absolutely. We'll get into it all in a second with regards to the Everton game. We'll join the preview on that. Hopefully we can get some sort of consistency back with our away form, having lost 5 away games in a row. And we've got to beat Everton, but also they're on a potential new old manager bounce, but save that for a bit later. Everyone's in the chat. Thank you very much for joining us. Make sure you smash the like button and hit the subscribe button. We've gone way past 5,000 subscribers, which is just amazing. We're almost at 5.1k. It's been mad. The support over the last 3 or 4 weeks has been crazy. So please do keep subscribing. We're on the road to 10,000 subscribers now. So like, subscribe, and get your comments in. And Rich in the chat has already said #Malen up the Villa. So I don't think there's any better place to start. Aston Villa have been a little bit busy in this transfer window. I've been doing these transfer roundup shows every day, and I've pretty much had a new player to talk about at least every day. And we've made a signing, Donyell Malen, in the door from Borussia Dortmund. What do you make of it, Kev?
Well, I don't really know, to be honest.
Yeah.
With Villa's transfer policy in the last few years, are you going to be getting I don't know, are you going to be getting a player of the caliber coming in of a Philogene who maybe flatters to deceive? Are you going to be getting a player coming in like Ian Matson who's got bundles of potential, but we've not really seen it? Or are you going to get in someone who's going to hit the ground running like an Emi Martinez, obviously in recent years, that kind of thing? I mean, who knows what it's going to be? From what I know about the player, I've done a bit of research, obviously, for the pod. Very, very pacey. I think automatically is going to be the paciest player in our squad and our team. He can be a bit hit and miss. In fact, when I was looking into him today, I remember thinking, have we just signed Leon Bailey? Just from a different nationality, Dutch Leon Bailey. By all accounts, he's better in the second half of the season, so it's a good time to buy him.
Yeah.
Has had flurries of goals, has had some games when he's not scored for a bit, but apparently he's got a great shot on him. He's pacey, can link up really well. There's rumours of him playing as a front man on his own if we need to, but apparently that isn't where he would be best. So look, he's obviously a pedigree player. He's obviously played for a good team in Borussia Dortmund. PSV before that, he's Dutch international. Again, no slouch with that. 9 goals in 41 games as a wide player. Dortmund's top scorer last season. Links up with his international and former club teammate Ian Martin as well. So, look, I'll welcome any player into the doors of Bodymoor Heath and Villa Park. Any player, and we'll get behind him as of course we will. If he gets himself an early goal away at Arsenal, where he came through the books, didn't he? Arsenal, he was a youth player at Arsenal.
He did. He
he
did,
can,
yeah, 2 or 3 years at Arsenal.
yeah, he can really endear himself to the Villa fan base by having a big start, and I'm sure he'll probably have a point to prove as well.
Absolutely, and even playing 2 or 3 years at Arsenal means that I guess you're kind of quite used to English football and the kind of culture of English football. So you'd imagine can sort of maybe acclimatise himself a little bit quicker than maybe someone else playing in a different league. That would be quite good. And just looking at that goal record, I mean, it's something like 83 goals in 180 games or something. So it's pretty, it's pretty decent for a wide player who can play forward as well. And yeah, I think with regards to wide players, as we said in our group chat, you show me, I could count on one hand the amount of wide players that aren't streaky, that aren't, that are extremely consistent. Mohamed Salah, that's probably about it. People wax lyrical about Matoma, but there's times when he's not getting in the team. There's times when he's not getting a game. Diaz for Liverpool was pretty poor tonight. Even you talk about top class wingers can be very, very streaky. So if we've got two of those players, at least hopefully one of them will be pretty good on one, from game to game.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's obviously going to be the case of wingers, isn't it? Because of any position on the pitch, the one where you're most likely to try and attempt to dribble and take someone on is the wide areas. It's not happening as often on other parts of the pitch, so that's obviously not always going to work against top class defenders. And then if your touch is off, your finishing's off, you're not getting as many chances. So it's to be expected. You're absolutely right. I mean, there's not many wide players who are brilliant every single week. There was a spell when obviously with Bale was like it every week, and obviously Salah. But yeah, even some of the better ones. If you look across the league now, Jacob Murphy's one who's obviously in great form now, but he's been derided in the past. Harvey Barnes is getting loads of grief all across the place. Matoma went quiet for ages. There's so many examples of this. And look at Villa through the years, from a Trezeguet to an El Ghazi. Obviously, we're very fond of them. Particularly, I think Trez for some of the goals he kept us up with, but El Ghazi was banging penalties in. Remember El Ghazi getting 10 in one season, I think early years of the Prem when we came back. But then even recently, Bailey, Philogene, Diaby, it just goes with the territory. So sorry for my laptop moving and my Great Danes kicking the screen.
It's all right. My screen was going up and down anyway.
Yeah.
The camera on top.
I know. I know. I was going to say. So I know some of the viewers like my Great Dane chats, but let me just quickly tell you, totally go away from the podcast. So on one day last week, this lovable 50+ kilogram beast, he ripped my sofa, scratching to get a some kind of treat that was stuck on the back. He ripped the fabric of the sofa by about 6-inch ripped fabric. I took him for a walk on the canal, and he thought the algae was grass, and he walked straight into the canal on a frozen day. And then I had to get him back, and I couldn't get the outside tap working, so I had to get him in the shower. So this is like the worst day of his life. He's having a warm shower. He's having a cold therapy, which, obviously I'm fond of, and he's ripping sofas. So he's been in the bad books, this dog. So,
oh dear.
In fact, he's disrupting the podcast as well. He's not good. So anyway, I digress. Let's move on.
A few comments coming in. I actually got loads of comments coming in. Rich joined up again, has been a member for 14 months. Thank you so much, my man. Congratulations on 5K subscribers. Up the Villa. What else? Who have we got here? Gary says, right back and we are done. Got him for free if Jaden has gone. Pablo said, can he play tomorrow? He can't play tomorrow, unfortunately, but he will, I'm sure, be playing some part of the game against Arsenal, obviously his old club as well. Kari says, Donyell Malen, I am suspect being only 5'9", but of course I'm supporting. I think he's more of a dynamic player, isn't he? I think he's more of a pacey, strong, similar like an Mbeumo sort of style. Nick says, Malen is the Diaby replacement, missed his contribution so far this season. I'd have to agree with that. Adam says we won't, but he'd love to see Bailey, Watkins, Malen, and Rodgers behind them. That's really good. Yeah, that'll be exciting, wouldn't it? Saka maybe is another consistent winger. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Luke says Marlon looks like a Nintendo Wii character, but if he bangs in 5+ goals, then I don't care. I like that. Yeah,
I can see it, Luke. I can see it.
yeah, definitely.
Looks like a boss at the end of a level, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like the Wii characters on the bowling or
Yeah.
the tennis. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's one in particular with like the
yeah,
little moustache. Yeah,
yeah.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Gary says Bailey needed competition. He had a cushy number with that DRB. Yes, challenging him, shall we say. Our left side is looking good, says Rich. Maatsen, Rogers or Ramsey is so good. Yeah, definitely. And Leslie says Maatsen and Marlon Dutch combination will be great for Villa. Dave will come to that in a second with regards to the game tomorrow. So, yeah, I mean, obviously we've got the pictures of him signing as well with Emery, Monchi, Vidigani, and then he's wearing this number 17 shirt, so that's looking good. And yeah, it'd be nice to see him kind of linking back up with Ian Maatsen. It seems to, I know Dortmund wasn't Maatsen's club. I think he was on loan from Chelsea, wasn't it? But is this kind of a signal of our intent now that we're able to sign players that have played for the likes of Dortmund, Champions League finalists last season? Are we kind of, that the reputation of Aston Villa, the reputation of the manager, the Champions League team aiming for Europe, this season to go into next season, is this kind of a sign of things to come?
Well, yeah, I just think if you think about, obviously, as Villa have kind of developed over the years, you can see that the tier and the levels of clubs we've gone for you've got to look at it from the main signings, right? You're not looking at it from a filigree from Hull, for example, right? You're either picking up a top player from a club that's struggling, so obviously with the likes of Amadou Onana from Everton, he's obviously a really, really good player and pay a certain fee for him. But usually, if the players are really good and they're playing for a top European team, then they are going to go to one of the big clubs. Well, I think we're getting closer to that now, aren't we? We're linked through him as players. By all accounts, we were really, really in for João Felix, and that would have been, again, a great fillip for us. I almost think Coutinho was one that kind of broke the mold a little bit. Like, getting him in was, I know it was a Stevie G link and all that, but still, to get a player of that ilk and that caliber at the time, I think it almost kind of pushed it on a step further. Look at what we've done. We've been doing dealings with Juventus for Douglas Luiz. And that's obviously, they're obviously a massive club. Whereas if you go back a couple of years, we were dealing with like Leverkusen, maybe a slightly lower tier, and now we're Dortmund. So yeah, it's it does sort of promote good signs for Aston Villa moving forward, and I think we're going to need to be doing that, aren't we? The next step for us, I think, is just to make sure that we can get in any of these superstars that are linked. Can we start getting to them first or second, basically? But to do that, we've got to establish ourselves as a top club, haven't we? And we've got to be top 4 or 5.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because you've got to almost finish in those Champions League spots, 3, 4, 5 seasons in a row to really establish yourself as that club that can just command a player or say, right, this is who we're going for. I think we will do more deals with the likes of, some of the big boys purely because we've got players that are touted by some of those clubs. You look at John Duran, you look at potentially Boubacar Kamara, what about Morgan Rogers as well with the kind of trajectory he's on? So it might be that we're able to do some deals with these clubs purely on the basis of we've got assets that they might want to buy, and then you can kind of trade off the back of that.
Yeah, but it hasn't always worked out that well for us, has it? Because obviously,
no.
We got I know Kellyman was the make weight, I guess, in the Maatsen deal, but we haven't seen the best of Maatsen yet. Although I am a big fan of his, from what I've seen.
I think we will soon.
Yeah, but as it hasn't the impact you'd expect, and of course with Juve, are both the players we bought in the Luiz deal are out on loan, so we haven't seen it yet, and that's the one thing you got to be mindful of those deals is you end up getting the cast-offs as part of the deal that you wouldn't really want anyway, but it's done to make it up. We've got to start to really put our foot down, I think, in terms of making sure we get players that we really want in the deal. Or it's got to be cash, but there's a lot of PSR deals going on to get it over the line. And you are right, and I think the other one, which we haven't mentioned, but there's been a bit of talk about it lately, has obviously been Ollie Watkins. And if, Ollie Watkins at the age that he is, with Duran breathing down his neck, if Duran does stay around, is Watkins almost as look, before anyone gets their knickers in a twist, I'm a big Watkins fan. He's been fantastic for us. I'd actually love him to break the record of Agbonlahor. It would be fantastic, and I think we can basically underplay what he's done. But he has gone back to that being a bit hit and miss, missed the most big chances in the league, and is there an opportunity if we can bring in the right kind of player to replace? Maybe younger, a bit cheaper, bit more of a finisher, shall we say, to then maximise Watkins while he's still just the right side of 30, playing for England, scoring lots of goals. Is that almost the ideal PSR solution where you move forward and you do keep Duran and then you bring someone else to kind of supplement that? I think we've got power and we've got chips that we can play basically to make it worse. Here's another one for you. You talk about what you do with this. I would be more devastated if we lost Kamara than I would be if we lost Watkins. And I think you can say that for a few players,
Yeah, I think Kamara's our best player. That's just, that for me is pretty much, or Emi Martinez, but I don't know if Emi Martinez has been as good this season. I think he's even admitted it. But I think Kamara's our best player. I think in terms of a saleable asset and who's going to be wanted, John Duran, and who's probably most likely to kind of just say, look, I'm off, it's John Duran. PSG or Madrid or Barcelona come in, he's sprinting like bloody roadrunner. There's no doubt he's going there. So we just got to enjoy him while we've got him, and then just take the money when it comes. Like he's not hanging around, mate. There's absolutely no way.
But it's on our terms, isn't it? Because he's obviously got the contract. So
yeah, of course. But like, you're talking 100 million. He's gone. There's no doubt about it.
Take it. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. Then for Watkins, I think you're probably looking at, this summer will probably be the last one for us to be able to cash in, so to speak. But I think it's more likely to be him. But look, we don't want to talk about players going. We're bringing players in. It's that's what we want, and obviously to let Philogene go. It looks like he was signing his contract for Ipswich tonight. Probably get announced in front of the fans tomorrow night. To kind of get a Champions League finalist and Dutch international for the same price as a young England under 21 player is pretty crazy, to be honest.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's like if you ever go to like one of the more budget supermarkets and you're like, oh, I've had this before from like, I don't know, an M&S or whatever. You might go, oh, I might try that. And then you go, not getting that again. Going to go back to what I know. It didn't quite taste the same. I mean, what were we thinking? You've got a situation where you've got Diaby with his pace, his international pedigree. Oh, actually, here's the plan. We're replacing with Philogene. Now we know that our backs were to the wall in the summer, and maybe that was just a tactical gamble they had to make, and maybe they knew there was sell-on value for Philogene, but he's hardly played, and we're making a profit on him, and we're getting the fee for him, which is not. I mean, what's the fee for Malen? 25, is it?
25 million euros. So it might be slightly more than 25 million euros. I think it's ranged from 20 million to 23 million up front, and then add-ons.
Yeah, well, let's just say similar, if not slightly less, for Philogene going out than we're paying for Malen coming in, and that is by all accounts, you can't think you're going to argue that is a really, really good deal for us. So yeah, but it was just a glaring replacement. No matter how sort of hit and miss Diaby was last season at times, when he was on it and that pace was flying forward, it was a weapon, and there was times that Diaby was absolutely brilliant. You add to that, then does that then make everyone else better around them because you're breaking at pace? Bailey was better, Watkins was better. We are a bit one-dimensional this season so far, with Rodgers really being the only one progressing the ball forward, particularly with Ramsey being injured. All of a sudden you can start to salivate at the thought of having Malen, Maatsen, Ramsey.
Well, it opens up so much more space, doesn't it? Because you bang on, particularly away from home. If teams know that they just have to double up on Morgan Rodgers, then it becomes easy to defend against. But if you know that there's Bailey to consider, there's Rodgers to consider, there's Malen to consider, automatically that then opens up space for all of those players plus Watkins. And it's no surprise that we've been found it really difficult to create chances, particularly away from home, purely because we haven't really had the options or the weapons to utilize against that opposition. We've been too deep, whereas now you've got pacing behind, so teams might drop off, which would then leave more space for Leon Bailey to run at players, or it will leave more space for Rodgers to run at players, or if they do start pressing, it leaves more space for Watkins or Malen to get in behind. So it obviously gives us a lot more options to utilize.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. And if we can just get it clicking a little bit, we can get some of these players back also soon that have been out with a sort of 2, 3, 4 week injuries. Talking maybe a McGinn, a Barkley. I know Torres will be out a bit longer, and then we can put a bit of a run together. It's exciting for the second half of the season. It is. We've got. I mean, this month alone, we've got to go away to Arsenal. We can, if we win tomorrow night, we can go into the top 6 on points, level on points in the top 6, and to be in that position mid-January is not a bad position to be in. We're very, very much in the mix for the top 4 spots still. And, admittedly, Liverpool are probably a bit too far away and we're a bit too inconsistent to even consider anything more than that. But at the moment, Chelsea are faltering. Arsenal are not the team they were. I still think we've got to be realistically thinking anything up to second is still a possibility for us. And if you don't get second, if you don't reach the moon, but you get to the stars, all that cheesiness, well, the stars for us would be 3rd, 4th, or 5th, really, because that's likely to be Champions League football 5th, and 3rd and 4th definitely would be. And what that would do for this club in terms of consecutive, consistent Champions League qualifications, in terms of revenues, in terms of players coming in terms of attractivity to the club commercially, globally, it's absolutely massive. We've already made, is it like 7-8 million quid or something from the Champions League? And
more than that. It's about 40.
Is it already? I mean, I was looking at just the wins.
Yeah, because I think you get 5 million per win.
Is it 5 million? I mean, either way, it's a lot of cash. It's more than we get from going out of the under-21 EFL trophy tonight, which is a bit sad. But it's more than you get for that. No, it is. I mean, I looked at the FA Cup. It's like you get. Is it 2 million if you win the FA Cup or something? I mean, it's literally nothing.
I know.
Nothing compared to it. We've got a lot to play for. We've got, as I said, top 6 if we beat Everton, and I don't care, new manager bounce and all that, but we should be beating Everton because they're just not anywhere near as good as this as a team, but crazy league. Then you're away at Arsenal when they're not in the best form. We've got West Ham, again, all these new managers are playing, but that's at home. And then we've got a couple of games in that, what's it called again? The Champions League. That's it. We've got Monaco away, we've got Celtic at home. Action-packed January. It's my birthday as well. It's all happening, Rich. It's all happening.
All happening. A few comments coming in. Luke says, Ramsey looked class the last 2 outings. I've pretty much written him off, but he's so gifted when he's fit and confident.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Mike says, we need to win 4 out of the next 5 league games. Gary said, even though Diaby was inconsistent, he's still got 10 goals and 10 assists. He thinks Jaden has 0 and 0.
Oh, no, he has.
And Marlon can play after the Champions League group stage as well, which is a bonus. So yeah, it's Kevin says beat Everton and we're 6 points behind Forest, definitely all to play for. So yeah, 100%. We're definitely in it. Just before we go on to talking about the Everton game, a few people in the comments, I think it was Ronan, said, did we see Carlos commenting on social media that he's not injured? Potentially preferring players to keep quiet. Obviously, Unai said he had a slight injury and he can't risk him. Obviously, we know it's basically because they don't want him to get injured because there's a potential sale in there. But it was Fenerbahce. It looked like that was the deal that was going on, but that looks like it's not fallen through, but they couldn't come to an agreement. But there's been other clubs interested in him, and there's also talk of him potentially going to Seville. And Loic Bardet coming in the other direction, obviously with money as well, us parting with money. Now, again, I don't know a huge amount about Bardet. We talked about him with Gareth the other day on the Transfer Talk show. He kind of seems like a similar mould of player to Carlos, strong in the tackle, but can be a little bit erratic, can give fouls away, but good with the ball as well. But maybe just a better version of him. Again, with regards to Diego Carlos, do you think it's time to sort of move him on, and if we can get a decent fee for him and then bring in an upgrade, would you be more than happy with that?
Yeah, with Carlos, I don't have the same hate for him that some have got. I'm actually really quite glad that after getting that horrendous injury, I think it was in his second. Very good, very good. He's not a bad player. Yeah, good. Always loving the gags, Gary. Always loving it. Totally throwing my train of thought there as well with this humour. Yeah, he got that terrible Achilles, like popped his tendon, didn't he? I think it was his second game for us. We thought maybe we wouldn't even see him ever again. And to reiterate this point, most of our big wins last season, he was in the centre of defence for, beating Man City, beating Arsenal, I think home and away. So he's done his bit for us. It's just when we play the dog and duck, he's not very good, but we have to give him his credit. I think his range of passing is better actually than he gets given credit for as well. He's beautiful pass for the ball when he's on it. But has his niggly of injuries, whether it's truthful or not. But we know he has actually obviously been out with injuries. He's, not getting any younger. He's in his 30s now. And if we can get a fee for him and bring in a player that's probably maybe a bit more mobile, has maybe a bit less of a mistake in him, then I think it's probably time to do it. It's probably how I feel about Cash, basically. I'd be sad if Cash left, but I think there's probably, with the rumours of the right backs that are coming in, Cash may well become that sort of squad right back rather than guaranteed starter.
Yeah. And if we do manage to bring in this, the right back, I guess a versatile right back, whether he's attacking or whether he can play in that right back, right centre back position. If we bring in a centre back as well as Carlos going out the other way, we've obviously signed Malen. Would that be a satisfactory window for you? Do you think we've then kind of covered those bases that we needed to?
Well, it depends if you're asking me whether I want more players realistically, or whether I want more players unrealistically.
Championship manager again.
Yeah, because I could have been persuaded we wouldn't bring anybody in based on how PSR had been, even though we desperately needed them. And I wouldn't have been surprised if we'd made no signings. So to make what would be a decent right back signing, hopefully, and obviously Marlon coming in for replacement for Philogene, then I think I'll probably say I'm pretty happy with that. But if there's a possibility to bring in, hey, what are we after? There's talk of a centre half. If a centre half comes in and Carlos goes out, that's probably it, isn't it? I do think, is Marlon the answer to some of our problems in terms of our attacking areas? It does depend a lot on the form of players, because when you list everybody, from a Watkins, Duran, Bailey, Marlon, I think you can throw Barkley in there.
Rodgers,
Morgan Rodgers, and Jacob Ramsey. That's quite a lot of attacking talent. Maybe Lou Barry goes. Maybe Buendia goes and they bring in someone else. I think if that happened and we brought in a real top class 10, slightly different sort of striker profile or attacking midfielder, Joe Felix and these links, I think that would be a perfect window. Bringing a centre half, a right back.
You love Joe Felix.
I think Joe Felix is a super player. I just want him to have a club where he's got a home. I think he'd be amazing. But maybe I got that one wrong. But I think that would be a dream window for me. But is it likely to do that? I don't know.
No, it's not. Luke said, did we sign the Turkish defender Ozcan, 18-year-old? It's under the radar if we did. I think it's pretty much done. They're talking about 7 million euros plus another 1 million in bonus, obviously based on appearances. But he's going back to his club on loan for the rest of the season. That is it, Kasim Passa or something, the club. Yeah. And then there was the French lad from Caen as well, who we're sending back out on loan. So it's all these different kind of avenues that we've got in terms of players that we go after. We obviously just raid West Bromwich Albion for their youth team for the UK players. We then sign all the top young players from around Europe and even across the world now. And then we go for kind of rough diamonds through Unai Emery to polish. And maybe we might sign some real top players in the future. But that's generally how we go at the moment. So I'm pretty happy with that. I actually do think that there's something in Louis Barry, I really do. Obviously, Celtic have come in for potentially interested in, which would be a great move for him, and I'd certainly entertain a loan to Celtic or something. But I think there's legs in him staying. I think because look at what happened with Kellerman, right? He played 4 or 5 games for the first team, and then he sold for 19 million. Carney Chukwuemeka played 6, 7 first team games and then sold for 20 odd million. All Louis Barry has to do is come off the bench for 4 or 5 games for the rest of this season, and you're probably adding a 5, 6 million onto his transfer value.
Yeah, the thing I would add to that, Richard, is you can hear all the arguments right around, oh, it's Championship, it's League One, it's League Two, can they do it? Well, we've seen with Morgan Rogers. And in recent years, we've seen with an Ollie Watkins, and Ezgi Konza, a Jared Bowen, and Eberici Eze, and Michael Elise, that there's some phenomenal talent in the lower leagues. Lou Barry's pedigree is absolutely through the roof, from going through the Barcelona ranks as a youth player to then maybe not quite hitting the heights when he came back to England. But you can't fault his form. He's been absolutely phenomenal. Like, was obviously leading scorer in League One, and he's been a real potent threat. And he gives us something if he sticks around, which I don't think we've got in the squad. That kind of attacking player with really, really quick, direct, gets a shot off, tricky. I think he's a different type of player. And maybe, I think you kind of mentioned this the other day, maybe for the quota of English players that you need for obviously for what we're doing, maybe there is a bit of an argument to keep him around. That being said, if the lad gets a chance to go to Celtic and put himself in the window there, get himself probably, win himself 3 trophies as well in the second half.
Yeah, exactly.
He's great. Yeah. I never wonder why more players didn't do that. Just do a year at Celtic, do a year at PSG, do a year at Galatasaray. You know what I'm saying. But I think it's a really good opportunity for us to, from a business perspective, make a bit of cash out of a player. You mentioned those players, obviously, Chukwuemeka, Kellerman. Let's not forget the 14 million we got for Jacob's brother, Aaron Ramsey. We obviously got a decent fee for Cameron Archer. We've started to make a bit of cash out of these players now, and that's what really builds the future of the club and sustains it. And is there value now selling him for, I don't know, 7 to 8 million to a Middlesbrough or a Cardiff type team, or maybe you can double that if he gets the chance to be in the shop window? It's just whether it's going to be for Aston Villa or not.
Yeah. Just what I tweeted out, and I didn't tweet out, I shared the tweet got with you guys about what Stan Collymore said. Basically, essentially, me and Stan on the same page on this, but he said it's a strange one because the narrative is he's been around for a while, had some loan spells, but not good enough for Villa. But he's still in the development stage. He's got obvious qualities. He's desperate to get a chance. Off the bench for 20 minutes is a no-brainer. He's Villa through and through. If we do sell, I hope we're savvy enough to put a buyback in and a hefty sell on percentage clause. Because he's got attributes that hurt teams, outrageous pace, will take shots early from distance, drives into the box so you get pens. And as he said, at 21, he's just starting to find his feet and physique as a pro. And I think that's part of it. It's the kind of mindset and the almost like the arrogance that he's got as a player that you see those attributes coming through. Like if you take the ball from where he takes it, drive with the ball, and then just shoot from distance, you do that whatever level you're playing at. You just do that. So obviously there's an argument of, yes, you're coming up against better defenders. Yes, you're coming up against, different systems that are going to test you. But it's still that mindset of like, I don't care who I'm coming up against. I'm going to do that. And that's the kind of thing that I like about him. That's different. That's a different mindset to Philogene. When his hands are in his sleeves, you know what you're getting. It's a different mindset to Cameron Archer. I always felt he was just too out of he wasn't demanding the ball enough, and that's the thing. And I hear all the arguments about, yes, League One is a difference and but if League One's like, no player would ever make it if it was the case. Like, yeah, you can always give that argument. That's fine, but
it's true. And I know it's not the same level, but he went from League Two to League One seamlessly. You argue League Two, he's obviously clearly a level below. That's just above National League level. And he went from League Two to be probably the best player in League One. So, and that's a level up. And Rich, you're absolutely right. You have to start somewhere. There's the argument that should he have been made it by now by 21. That obviously that Christian Persson argument we always used to make. But some people can be late bloomers. But I totally agree with you. Everything in life is about confidence. That fake it till you make it. Believe what you can. And all those kind of things. And Philogene just didn't look like he's up for it. I've played football at times. I'm sure you have as well, mate. Back in the sort of 60s and 70s when you last played, right? But sometimes when you're a bit out your depth, these teams. I think I said before, I played a 11-a-side game a few months ago. And Joni Lescott's brother was on the other team, and he ran the show from the centre of defence. In fact, I only scored because his centre half colleague tripped over the ball. I was like, yes, cheers for free goal, but one player absolutely bossed it, and it was the confidence. And I, in that game, felt myself thinking, going in for some of the challenges, oh, this is tough, man. This is really tough. We're talking Premier League footballers. Maybe Philogene might work out in Premier League, but he just looked overawed. He looked like he didn't believe in himself. And you can see that with Bailey when he's up and down with it. Louis Barry's got a glint in the eye, hasn't he? He's got a sparkle. He's got that cheeky chappy thing. And you could almost see him, wouldn't really care about the opposition. Well, he did it at 17 against Liverpool, didn't he? We've got a little bit of a window into what he's done before. So he's obviously already scored a senior goal for the club. So I'm happy either way, whatever the club do.
Me too.
But I'll be disappointed if Barry went and Buendia left and we didn't bring in another attacking type player.
Yeah, and that might be what Uno's looking at. I think he's going to leave it as late as possible because there's certainly not going to be a lack of interest in him right up until the end of the window. And he might be looking at, right, okay, if this guy does impress in training, could he have the spot that maybe Buendia has at the moment or something like that? But we'll wait and see.
Here's one for you, Rich, as well, just on that. And I think Luke's put it in the comments as well. What have you heard about the rumours for Tyler Dibbling? Because he looks like a real prospect.
I heard it was Newcastle that were really, really interested in him, not Villa.
Right, okay. Because I'd heard rumours for Villa, but
yeah,
he'd be good, wouldn't
he? He'd be very good. Yeah, he's kind of burst on the scene for Southampton, been a real sort of bright spark for them. I'm pretty sure he'll go somewhere when they get relegated, but I heard it was more Newcastle that were really pushing to sign him and not necessarily Villa.
Well, we'll
wait and see.
They're basically relegated now, aren't they? They might as well just sell him. They're basically
down. Yeah. Right. We've got over nearly 400 people in the chat. I'm not sure how many likes we have right now, but if you haven't liked us on YouTube, please do hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We're marching on to 5,100 and beyond. Obviously, we hit the 5K mark last week, so we're really growing rapidly, which is amazing. Now on the road to 10K. If you're on X, follow us at Villa Park Pod. Follow Kev at KTAVFC as well. And make sure you retweet and all that jazz to help spread the message. So we've got a game of football to play tomorrow, Kev. We've talked about it, teased it before. 5 defeats in a row, but we now go to Goodison Park for the final time in the Premier League. They're going to move into their new stadium, could well be in the Championship, but they have acted and they now have their new old manager, David Moyes, back in at the helm. What do you make of it? New manager bounce. Everton fans will certainly be up for it tomorrow. It's always a tough game, but it will be certainly a tough atmosphere to play in tomorrow night.
Yeah, it will be a tricky one, won't it? Absolutely. They will be, Goodison, you and I have shared a great away day at Goodison, haven't we?
We did.
It was fantastic. They put the black nets up. We couldn't see what was going on, but we managed to. It was RM, wasn't it? Both goals. Yeah. Watkins penalty.
Penalty and Buendia, wasn't it?
Buendia step over, Watkins firing a penalty into the roof of the net. Yeah. Great atmosphere. Great, one of the old grounds. Real shame to sort of lose a ground like that. Weirdly, sort of. Ipswich reminded me a little bit of that in terms of like the age of the ground and stuff. It's slightly different seating position, but obviously. I've always had a lot of time for Everton. Proper club, most played fixture in the top flight as well. Let's not forget that. So we want to try and keep that stacked. It's a good one. So I'm hoping they don't go down. No doubt about it. They've got some good players, but they're just not a particularly good squad. And I even think with David Moyes, he's got his work cut out. I think he'll keep him up because I think there's just worse teams in the league, clearly. Southampton is 6 points clear. The rest of them, it's always kind of there or thereabouts. And to be honest, it's nowhere near, going to be comfortable for him, because Wolves are decent, Ipswich have shown some form, and Leicester have got some good players as well. So, it's going to be probably going to be two of those four I've mentioned that will go down along with Southampton. Remains to be seen who it's going to be, but Moyes is a caliber manager. I mean, he won a European trophy with West Ham. Man United, he was probably wrong manager and also wrong time in terms of doing that. But other than that, I mean, he did a fantastic job at Everton, made him consistently pretty much a top 6 team, qualified for the Champions League. I know they lost in the playoffs, didn't they, against Villarreal, sort of mid 2000s, but FA Cup final, just did a brilliant job. The question's obviously going to be, I've already seen these things going out there. Obviously, West Ham, he had Souček. He had Fellaini at Everton. Who's he going to get? Rudy Gestede or something? Peter Crouch out of retirement. He likes a massive, massive guy. Nikic Jelavic as well was one he had, didn't he? A big guy to sort of fire it to. I always felt it was hard done by at West Ham, and you only got to see what happened with Lopetegui to be careful what you wish for sometimes as a fan base. But we should have enough to beat them. And they're not in great form. They've only got, I think, 17 points anyway, and if we have got designs, I feel like I say this on every time we play a team we should beat. I always say the same thing. We've got designs of being a top 4, top 5 team. You've got to be going to Everton and winning these games. New manager bounce or not.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to come to this, and Kevin put it in quite well. Moyes will set them up not to lose. So he's called for Maatsen for his pace and instinct to get forward. It could be the difference. We'll talk about starting lineups in a second, but do you feel like he will set them up not to lose, like coming up against Aston Villa? Or do you think he'll be like, right, get them from the off, use the crowd, all that kind of stuff? Like, how does he approach it?
Well, what's his kind of type? His type is not particularly gung-ho, is it really? Although I do feel like, well, let's look at it like this, right? If he goes for it and they're 3-0 down at half-time, that's a baptism of fire, that, isn't it? You don't come back from that. It's like, this is a bad move. What are we doing getting Moyes back? He's too old. He's over the hill. We had good memories. Never returned to the scene of a crime and all that, right? Whereas, does it make sense to keep it tight and then go for it the last 15, 20 minutes if he's still in the game and the crowd can kind of get confident and get into it? That's what I think they'll probably do. I think they'll probably try and keep it quite tight and be in that sort of situation. So, yeah, I mean, but who have they got that can cause problems? I mean, I don't even know necessarily the full fitness of the team, but
Yeah, I think Njai is a good player, isn't he?
He's decent, yeah.
The wide player, he's not a bad player. But I mean, the rest of them are pretty. I mean, it's their defense, really, their centre backs that kind of throw themselves in front of everything. They are quite hard to break down, and that's the thing. Is it hard to break down and try and play for a set piece? That's generally Everton and what they've done. I can't imagine anything really different in terms of the football that he's going to make them play. He might make them a bit more on the front foot than they were under Dyche, but it's very difficult. Yeah, like you say, within a few days to get it turned around. Like they're going to try and get results by hook or by crook, aren't they? Really?
Well, the good news for us is that if it goes, it's Dwight McNeil and Calvert-Lewin are both doubtful, from what I've read. Broguer's obviously out as well, so if it looks like it might be Beto, if you're playing Tyrone Mings, I'm confident we can deal with him. Although famous last words and all that. Harrison's a good player, Decore's a good player. They've got some good players, but I always feel a bit more worried when they've got Calvert-Lewin, when they've got McNeil, as we saw at Villa Park, was obviously very good. Garner's out, who's a decent player. Yeah, they've got some good players, but I think their squad isn't particularly good. And yeah, we should really have enough. I mean, particularly, you look at our squad now, we can make 4, 5, 6 changes and still be able to beat an Everton. And we need an away win. And
we do. We really do.
Again, it's an opportunity to get into the top 6 with the way results have gone. It wasn't looking like that. Everyone would have thought it would have been a Chelsea win and it would have been a Man City win. So you've got a chance to get back amongst the elite in terms of the top 6, and then you go into Arsenal with some confidence. Will that be 3 wins on the road, wouldn't it, as well?
3, yeah. 3 in all competitions, yeah.
Beat
Everton tomorrow. Yeah.
Obviously,
beat Leicester, beat West Ham. Yeah.
FA Cup against West Ham, yeah. So and then winning becomes a habit, doesn't it? It becomes the confidence is built.
Definitely. Dristos said we need to start fast from the whistle. I don't think starting with our slow controlling pace will help us. The first season under Emery had 18 goals in the first 15 minutes. Now we concede the first 10. Yeah, so I do think we need to go fast. Early goal, I think Rich was saying as well in the chat. So that would be good as well. Getting an early goal, quieting the crowd down, and all that kind of jazz. So, quick look at FOTMob in terms of their predicted lineup. I'll see what you think of it, Kev, in terms of whether you would make any changes to it. They've gone with the back five: Martinez in goal, obviously Cash, Konza, Mings, Luka Dean, Bailey, Kamara, Tielemans, Ramsey, and then Rogers and Watkins. What would you say to that in terms of any changes?
Well, there's talk about whether Onana's going to play, obviously going back to where he used to play, but I don't know whether you need two holders against Everton. They're not the most potent attacking force, and maybe you want to play a slightly more offensive player. So what was that there? It was saying Kamara holding with Tielemans and Ramsey in the team, Rogers as well.
Yeah. So you'd have Kamara
Bailey,
Tielemans
Watkins.
as Kamara Tielemans as the back, as the midfield pivot, so to speak. Then Bailey off the right, Ramsey more left, Rogers and Watkins. Rogers behind Watkins. I'd be maybe tempted with Kamara and Onana as that midfield too, and then Tielemans instead of Ramsey, and maybe Ramsey off the bench.
That's a shout. I would also personally, I'd probably start Duran instead of Watkins.
Yeah, I know. We had this debate last night. I just don't see Emery doing it. Like, I would like that to happen. I just don't see Emery doing it.
Yeah,
I don't think. I know we have so many debates over Watkins, but I don't feel like Emery will think that he's played badly.
Yeah,
like he's scored and assisted against Brighton, and he was a key part of. Yes, no one played very well for the first 70 minutes against West Ham, but once the space opened up, Watkins was a real key part of that comeback, and he obviously set up the goal for Rodgers. So I can't see him dropping him. I don't see what reason he's got to.
Well, as Rachel says in the comments, if Ollie's at it and he can run at him and stretch him for 60, 70 minutes, then more likely to be a bit earlier. Otherwise, Duran will be throwing his toys out of the pram if he's still on the bench for 70 minutes. In Duran's mind, Watkins will get 32 minutes and then he's on. And I do think the calls for Maatsen as well are good. I think.
I'd like that. I would like that. Yeah. He was good against West Ham. Even in that first half, he kept trying to make himself available. It was just, I don't think Mings had the confidence to try and play that pass. And in the second half, he just thought, sod it, I've got to play this pass. And then they started using him. Now, it is always, we always get kind of carried away as football fans. We want the fast start. We want this. We want that straight away. But teams will set up the likes of Everton, the likes of West Ham at the moment, where they just need results. The likes of, any sort of defensive side. Crystal Palace, a lot of the time, will set up to not lose. Nottingham Forest are in second position in the table, playing exactly this way. And for 70, 80 minutes, it was very difficult to break West Ham down. Yes, we didn't move the ball fast enough. Yes, players weren't moving enough, but it is very hard when you've literally got 11 men behind the ball, shutting down every single space that you try and pass into. It is very difficult, and sometimes it takes until the 70th minute to open up, when those players start to get a little bit more tired, when their concentration starts to drop a little bit, because you've been passing the ball and moving them around. That's when it starts to open up just that little bit more. And maybe Villa, we have to get used to that in some games. What we have to do, though, is keep concentrating and not let a goal in the other end.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And that's been our Achilles heel all season, hasn't it? I did the old predictions league with Deontay on X, and I can't believe I went for a 2-0 away win, because we'll be probably 1-0 down by about 4 minutes. You know what we're like. But then I do believe we can come back. I just would like a bit of consistency, because this is the thing, isn't it? Obviously, we beat We beat Leicester, but it was unconvincing. We beat West Ham, but it was unconvincing. Hey, a win's a win. You take it, but a couple of convincing wins, Villa. Come on, you beat Everton going to top 6. You get a great away win at Arsenal. Properly end their chances again 2 seasons in a row, and then you're really riding high going into a couple of Champions League games, West Ham at home, and all of a sudden it could be just, you've got automatic Champions League qualification to the to the next round without the playoff game in our hands in the next couple of weeks. And we've got probably an opportunity, if we can get the results right, to be top 5 Premier League. So we could be at the end of the month, be in the positions to qualify for the Champions League next season and through to the next round. And we're one good performance from Spurs away from being in the 5th round of the FA Cup. So there's a hell of a lot to play for Aston Villa. And I hope these players are going to give their absolute all. And because we could still get something out of this season. We still could.
Yeah. Espen there says 21 of our last 25 goals against have come from turnovers, and he's only checked the last 25. So,
oh God, don't check the last.
We don't check any more, mate. We certainly don't want to give the ball away. But when you thought about that with regards to convincing wins, there's actually been very few convincing wins across the Premier League this season. I don't recall that many, I think you'd probably say Tottenham convincingly beat us 4-1, even though we were sort of 1-0 in the second, going into the second half. But have there been, obviously, even today, Man City go into a 2-0 lead, you think it's comfortable, and then they end up drawing 2-2. It just seems like players get this pressure, fatigue, mindset. I don't know what it is this season, but it just seems like I don't know. I mean, obviously, when you play Southampton, it's generally convincing, but there's a good chunk of teams that always seem to be in. Oh yeah, Newcastle as well. As Michael's reminded me, but yeah, there's been a big chunk of teams that seem to be kind of able to, even if they're 2-0 down, they're still in with a shot. We were 3-0 up against Brentford, and they got the goal back to 3-1, and we were still panicking. Like, it just seems like that this season with so many teams in the league.
Yeah, it's been a really interesting topsy-turvy season. Frustrating as a Villa fan, but then we've got to look at it and think, crikey, we're way ahead of West Ham, Tottenham, Man United in the league. There's so many teams that will be disappointed with how their season's gone and what they've got to play for still. So we have to look at that calmly. But is it acceptable to just have to say, well, you know what, you're going to win some, you're going to lose some? Is that?
Oh yeah. No, you can't just. I mean, Sharek's reminded me that Chelsea also and Liverpool. So yeah, I take his point. But I mean, if you could multiply that, you could say, you could. Yes, we've had some, but I just think as a general rule across the league, we've had some win. We've had some wins where we've come back from being 1-0 down. We've had a few. There's other games as well. We've had Bournemouth pegged us back to draw 1-1. Ipswich pegged us back to draw 2-2. But there's also been other teams that have had that. Obviously, today you've had those results as well. Bournemouth, Chelsea would be thinking, right, we're 1-0 up away at home to Bournemouth. We should be beating Bournemouth. And then they're 2-1 down in the blink of an eye. Like, it's happening a lot this season.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. It's whether you could just take advantage of it, isn't it? This is the thing. It's like almost reminds me of almost like a long distance cycling race, because you can get people being part of like that pack, and then they drop back, and then being part of the chasing group again, then dropping back. Can you sustain the push until the end at the right time? Can you time it until the end at the right time? And we've not had a brilliant, compared to 2023, 2024, have we? We've not been anywhere near as good.
Well, I think we would have been 6th.
Yeah, which was obviously
we went from like 2nd or 3rd down to 6th.
Yeah, if we can get back to being like a top 4 quality team, then really it's in our hands. It's in our hands. We've got the capability in this squad and this manager to win a trophy. And if you're not winning a trophy, you get European qualification. It has to be a minimum. I think it has to be a minimum for this manager, for this team, and for this club, more importantly. And that consistency is key. And the players have been flat at times. That's the thing I think we need to try and eradicate moving forward. I want them to be a bit braver on the ball. Hopefully Malen, signing. I think actually you think about what can change for the club. having Martin in the team, having Ramsey in the team, having Marlon in the team, all of a sudden, maybe that gets you a bit more out of a Bailey, and then you're looking a bit more exciting,
Dynamic.
a bit more dynamic. Yeah. You know, you've got that solidity of Kamara and Onana. You've got the poise of a Barkley to come on, the experience of Mings. You know, this quality, experience, skill in this team. We've just, it's been a bit hit and miss. So yeah, I'm just looking forward, and hopefully starting tomorrow night, we can put in a good performance against Everton.
Yeah. Nick's just saying I look a bit tired. Mate, I've certainly not been on it over the weekend. Been just chilling this weekend. I've been down with that cold and flu, so maybe it's just the aftermath of that, mate. But I'm raring to go, mate. Don't worry about that. So before we finish up with the predictions, and you can start to get your predictions in the chat. You did mention it was the most played game in the Premier League. We've played 59 times, 20 draws. We've had 9 away wins, and Everton have had 9 home wins. So, not a bad record against Everton, to be honest, Kev. The last few, we obviously won this season 3-2. The John Duran absolute whirlwind goal, possibly up there with goal of the season. 0-0 last season. I was there. It was a bit of a boring game. 4-0 win in the early part of the 23-24 season. Then the 2-0 victory we spoke about, mate, and the 2-1 victory as well towards the start of that season. That was Gerrard, wasn't it, still there? Was that when Diego Carlos got his injury?
I think the Carlos injury was a home game against...
Yeah, the 2-1, though. I'm sure it was when he got injured. I'm sure it was right at the end of the game. That was when Onana had first signed, and he came on and almost won the game for them.
He played well from that game, didn't he? I do remember.
I'm sure of it.
I really remember that one, yeah.
But their form, 3 draws, 2 defeats, only 1 goal scored in their last 5 games. Villa, 2 wins, 1 draw and 2 defeats in the last 5 games. So a little bit mixed, but certainly starting to get a little bit back on the road to form. 8th at the moment, but as you said, we can get in that sort of race for top 6, get level on points with Newcastle if they get beaten tomorrow, and level on points with Man City. 16th for Everton at the minute. The goals scored per game, though, 0.79 goals scored per game, 1.5 for Villa. They don't concede many goals, obviously, so we need to make sure we put our chances away tomorrow. And yeah, if we do get off to a good start, if we do get a good early lead, then I think we should be good for this game.
I was just going to say, the stat of all stats is in the last 10 games, Everton's top scorer is the Wolves defender Craig Dawson, who got 2 own goals. 2 own goals in the last 10 games. Their top scorer is a rival team's relegation team's centre half. That's a mad stat. That is mad stat.
I love that. So we've got some scores in. Lucas says 2-1 Villa. Michael says 3-0 Villa. And Michael O'Brien says 3-0 to Villa. Kamikaze says 7-0 Villa. Paul says Everton 0, Aston Villa 7.
Welcome back, David Moyes.
Gary said Duran must start. Stephen says 3-1 Villa, Watkins, Rodgers and Ramsey. And Mike says 3-0 Villa, Bailey, Watkins, Bailey and Yuri. Luke says 2-1 Villa. That seems to be the popular score at the minute for us. Michael says in that 3-0 win, Rodgers, Watkins and Duran to score. Richard says 3 goals, clean sheet, Watkins 2, Duran 1. Carlos got injured against Bournemouth in the first game. Sorry about that. Gary says 2-1, tight game. And I think Sharik says, yeah, we're guaranteed to go behind tomorrow.
Yeah,
Kevin says 2-1 Villa. Seta Stain says 1-1, but really hopes not. Sharik saying 2-0 to Everton. I mean, Sharik, I love you. Right? You're so realist
so real.
To the point of like thinking Villa are just terrible. I love it though. PJJ says 3-1 Villa, Rodgers, Watkins and Duran. 1-0 Villa says the man with the golden gun. Espen says 1-0 Rodgers. Richard says 4. And Paul, I think, has revised his 7-0 to a 4-2. Oh, no, he hasn't. He said Duran to get 4 goals, Bailey and Roger. Bailey 1, Rodgers and 2. Yes.
Paul doesn't revise his 7-0ers.
He doesn't. I just thought he'd. For some reason, I thought he was saying 4-2, but no, he's saying that Duran with 4 goals.
I love it.
So, Kev, what are you saying for tomorrow? Score and scorers.
Well, everyone that says we're going to concede, I totally agree that's likely. But I'm just at some point I've got to predict us to not concede, so I'm going to do that tomorrow. I do think probably the ones with the 1-0 prediction it's more likely to be not a very good game, a bit crap, and then we kind of get a goal and we're unconvincing again. But I'm going to be slightly more positive than that. I'm going to say Everton under David Moyes 0, Aston Villa 2. The goal scorers will be Morgan Rogers and Jacob Ramsey. There you go. That's it for me.
Like it. Michael says 2-1 Villa. I'm going to say 3-1 Villa. Watkins, Rogers, and JD off the bench. But I don't think we'll keep a clean sheet.
Yeah. Oh, big news. Paul's changed his mind.
8-0. Oh, yes, there he is. He's changed his mind. He's gone for 8-0.
VAR's given Duran
5.
Give it Duran back.
And then Sharik with a £2 super chat. Give me stick tomorrow if we win, lads, but we won't. All right, we will see, mate. We will see. But thank you so much for your support, mate. And Jim, to end on a positive, says 2-0 Villa. I do want to say, I keep forgetting, but I've got the prize, the members' prize, which I will for the Aston Villa 24-25 playing cards by Matty 723. So I will do the draw for them on the preview for the Arsenal game. So please do, if you want to become a member, please click the join sign. They've got some great designs on the cards. Morgan Rogers is there, number 5. Got some good ones. We've got Amadou Onana as the Queen. So yeah, some really good. John McGinn, obviously number 7. So yeah, some really good ones. So make sure that you do, if you want to become a member, hit the join button or click the link that's pinned at the top of the chat. Just $1.99 a month. I will start to do some more member stuff as well. I keep forgetting. So, yeah, please do. And we'll do the draw on the live match preview for the Arsenal game. So, still got a few days to get in. Kev, great show, mate. Thank you very much. Obviously, new signing in the door. Maybe 1 or 2 more coming this week. Hopefully, a win tomorrow against Everton. Get us back in that top 6, top 5 Champions League, whatever you want to call it, race. Hit that like button on your way out. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We'll be back with match reaction tomorrow and a potential transfer roundup as well. I'm doing those every day, so please do watch out for that one. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Thanks for all your comments. And as always, remember, we all follow the Villa.